You're listening to Vedge Your Best. There has never been a more important time to be vegan. At Vedge Your Best, I want to help you. I want to help you limit and eliminate the consumption of animal products without feeling deprived, overwhelmed, or unsupported, even if no one you know is vegan. My name's Michelle Olander. I'm a life coach, and I know that if I could go vegan in my 50s, with all my excuses, I know you can start moving in that direction too. Vedge your best, and there's nothing you can't do. Episode 146, How I Vegan, with podcasting co-hosts Matt and Wes. Welcome back, my Vedge Your Bestie. Welcome back. I am on the road again. I'm in New York City for a couple nights, a little semi-impromptu birthday get-together with my husband and our kids and their spouses and their kids. And we had a great lunch at Le Botaniste, which is a little... it's a small chain in New York and in Europe as well of plant-based restaurants. And last night, my husband and I had kind of a splash-out, amazing dinner at 11 Madison Park. 11 Madison Park is a restaurant that I think opened in 1998, and it was one of the finest restaurants in the world, according to many critics. And in recent years, it has become entirely plant-based, and they are working with figuring out how to partner with farmers and with other sorts of sustainable initiatives to create a 100% plant-based, elegant, fine dining experience. And anyway, this is not our usual way of wanting to eat with these sorts of multiple courses and very theatrical, but it was magnificent. It was great. And they really, well, a vegan coach / podcaster needs content, right? So we went, and the staff at 11 Madison Park made such a fuss over us. They showed us into the kitchen. They could not have been more attentive and sweet. So anyway, a big shout out to 11 Madison Park and all the terrific people. I've never been waited on by so many different people, and they were all tremendous. So I'll be posting some of those photos on Instagram. And yes, if you follow me on Instagram, yes, I am behind on my Instagram posts of what we eat and where we're going. I am still behind on the posts from our trip to the UK last month. And speaking of the UK, unintended segue, my podcast friends, my friends Matt and Wes, are on the pod today. And I actually really consider them as friends. And this is partially because they are so real and thoughtful, and because I think podcasting is such a friendly medium. You get to know people, their voices are in your ears. It's really a different kind of relationship with people, the hosts of the different podcasts that I follow. So I really, really admire them. They were kind enough to invite me on their podcast a few months back, and now is my time to reciprocate and figure how to make it all work in their schedule. So anyway, today will be an unscripted conversation with these two very charming podcasting colleagues, and I'm excited that if you don't know them, you're going to see how they have created their own special corner of the podcast universe at How I Vegan. Now, we'll talk about, Matt had the idea of making the podcast to put his commuting time to use and in support of his vegan advocacy. And I love the rapport he has with Wes. I just love it. And Wes often talks about his more recent commitment to veganism and the response he sometimes gets from his colleagues about that. Not all of them, but some. And, you know, I have wanted a podcast co-host from the beginning, so I'm so jealous that these two have each other to play off of. So anyway, if you have ideas of a podcast co-host for me, please let me know. And if it's you, pitch me. maybe we should find someone for me. Now, in the interview, Wes has, I guess you'd call it a microphone malfunction, so you'll know which one he is pretty quickly. And you might need to strain a tiny bit more than usual to hear him, but I know you'll find it well worth it. So if you're new to Matt and Wes and How I Vegan podcast, I think you're going to love getting to know these two busy working dads and husbands who could do, I guess they could do a million other things in their limited time, but instead they bring us a glimpse into how many ways there are to vegan. So listen, I think you'll be inspired, and I'll catch you on the other side. Matt and Wes and Matt from How I Vegan. Welcome to the pod.
Hi. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
It's great to be here. It's I've got to say, it's weird being on this side of the desk.
Is it?
Absolutely.
You're the first person to invite us onto another podcast.
Oh, you're kidding?
No. So normally it's just us wanging on with a guest in between, and now we're on the other side. So
I had no idea.
It's weird. It feels a bit strange, but we'll get there.
Oh, that's good. Oh, this is great.
I feel weird not having to have pressed anything except to come in. It's like...
Yeah, just relax.
I've got an alcohol-free beer. I'm just going to sit back and chill.
Excellent.
Got a very British cup of tea.
What's a cup of tea? Very nice. Sugar, no sugar?
No sugar.
No sugar. Okay, builder's tea.
Oh.
No?
I think builder's tea had sugar in it.
Oh, does it?
Does
it?
Maybe
I'm wrong. Okay, I believe you. I totally defer to your judgment about tea in England. My dad grew up in England. My dad was a Polish refugee, and his dad flew with the RAF in the Second World War, and so I've spent a lot of time there. But I don't know my details. Don't know my details. All right, so I look at your podcast all the time. I listen to it all the time. And when I look at the title, How I Vegan, in my head, I do all kinds of things. I do How I Vegan. Sometimes I do How I Vegan, like how I began.
Oh.
So tell me about the title. Who decided and who went along with it?
Matthew definitely decided it.
So basically, I've been commuting to work for coming up for 16 years now from where I live to London, and it's about an hour and a half each direction, which is a lot of time on a train. And I really got into podcasts, and there was a really wide variety of ones that I listened to, like football or soccer, if you like, soccer podcasts, movie podcasts, a brilliant one that's no longer going called Answer Me This Podcast. And each of them in a different way provided something that I really liked. So when I went vegan, I thought, I wonder what podcasts there are. And I listened to quite a few. And I'm pleased to say that yours wasn't around at that point, Michelle, because this would be really offensive. But I didn't really find one that I liked. There wasn't one that spoke to me. Mainly it was people talking to themselves or each other. And I didn't really find what I wanted. So I kind of thought, wouldn't it be great if there was a podcast where the host had on a vegan guest and they just talked about how they live their vegan life? And it's as simple as that. And so I asked Wes if he would come on a podcast with me, because I thought two hosts can be more effective than one sometimes and get more of a sort of conversation going. And also I'm quite good at forgetting important things. So Wes is really good at remembering that stuff. So I asked Wes if he'd come and be a co-host with me, and he said no. And then and then about a year and a half later, I said, seriously, will you do a podcast with me? And he went, go on then. Okay. And here we are. We've done a year and a half we're coming up for now.
Yeah.
And we've spoken to some wonderful people from all around the world, including yourself. And it's literally just vegans talking to vegans about being vegan.
Yeah. Well, Wes, is that how you remember how it happened too?
Absolutely, 100%. Yeah. It's not a word of a lie in there at all. Yeah, Matthew wanted to do it, and it literally exactly what he said there. He came to me with that, and in all honesty, I wasn't in the best headspace to do it when he first asked me. So I was just like, no, I haven't got the confidence to do that. I haven't got the confidence now But I'm in a better headspace now than I was then. So when he came back to me the second time, I was like, yeah, let's do this. Let's just, yeah, it's that activism thing. So when I went vegan, I was like, I wasn't sure how active to be. And then I wasn't sure how to be active either. And then when Matthew suggested the podcast, I was like, actually, that's something we could do. So it's just our little thing, our little corner of activism where we just sort of people to talk about it, share their thoughts, share their ideas, have a bit of a pinwag, a chat, and just that's pretty much it.
We've learned loads of things from people all over.
I've learned so much more from listening to other people now. In the year and a half we've done it, I've learned more than I did in the first 4 years of being vegan, easily, just from listening to other people.
Yeah, because one of the things is that very, very rarely do we as vegans get to speak to other vegans about being vegan. It might come up in a conversation. Oh yeah, I'm vegan as well. Oh great, okay. But then the conversation moves on. And also most of the conversations that Wes and I have about being vegan are with carnists who are trying to find out where we get our protein or what we'd do if we were stranded on a desert island with just a pig for company, that sort of thing. So you don't really get any sensible conversations about, what sort of food do you eat, and where do you like to go when you're in town or whatever, what's your favorite restaurant and all that sort of thing. And it's just like sitting around a coffee table having an oat cappuccino and a bit of a chat. It's quite relaxed.
Well, you are I find it very relaxing to listen to you guys, and I have learned a lot from your guests that you have had. And I also have learned, because you are middle class guys of a certain age with families.
We're not middle class, Michelle. No, we just put on these posh voices. We're very much working class, us too.
You know what? The U.S. has a different version of middle class, I think. But you have.
Okay, maybe.
Your dad's. I mean, we have the big. You can't see my arms going wide. We have a big middle class still.
Okay.
But you are working guys. You have families. You are. You're not retired and just making a passion project out of this. You're in the middle of all the things that need to be done in life, and you're showing up to tell us how that looks as vegans. And the male voice is a little bit missing, I think, in this sector of the world, don't you think?
I've never really thought of it, to be honest with you. No, I mean, we're just two white bearded old blokes in our mid-40s who like having a chat. I've never thought of it more deeply than that, but maybe that's right. That's right.
So you know what? I may be putting something there that's not there, but I feel like the podcast vegan world is I think it's largely female, except for some very, very well-known males. And those males are often ultra endurance athletes who are, kind of in a very elite area of their specialties somewhere. And I don't think they speak the average dad, the average husband, the average, working man, because I know, talking to mostly women, they say, oh, there's no way I'll get my husband to afford this. Or there's no way my boyfriend is going to put up with this. And there you are, looking like very, very nice, normal vegans. Only you're married, so I can't.
I'm done with it.
Steady on.
Being called normal for me is just great.
Yeah.
I think there's a definite thing where there's a lot of social media accounts on like Instagram and those sorts of things where it maybe is predominantly female. But I kind of don't see that matters so much, because there are guys out there, and I do agree with you, Michelle. There is quite a large percentage of the male side of it that is thought faith, and you can still be a strong man by being vegan. That's not what we're about, because we're definitely not strong. Matthew's probably way fitter than me with his vegan running, but cardio
perhaps.
But I'm not. But I think it's just, that's kind of what we do, what we try and do with our podcast is just, we're just normal. We're just your average guy.
We're just
Your
normal
average
men.
vegan podcaster.
Yeah. We're nothing special. We don't claim to be anything special. We're just trying to get people talking and get not even get a message out there, just literally to get people to be able to talk about it openly.
Mm-hmm. That's it.
I think
exactly.
I think that's amazing, because that is what you learn by listening to your podcast is, I think, how many different ways there are to be vegan. There's one concept, which is to do as little harm as possible, to be compassionate. Yes, that's the kind of like the one idea. But after that, there's so many different ways people get there and try to stay there. And it opens us all up in like very different ways. And I know like your families are what I call, like mine, mixed. You have mixed families.
Yes. Yes.
But I think you're much more successful in your families than I've been in mine.
Wes has done a great job, actually.
Have I? What, with Josh?
Yeah.
Yeah. Josh is pretty good, to be fair. He was not that he'd sway, but I think he just needed to. He needed to learn how to do it. He didn't. He was unsure at times when he was getting things right or wrong, and now he's like, he's on board fully, and he does get it. I think he struggled because of like peer pressure from his age group mainly. Whereas
he was very young at the time, wasn't he?
Being an old bloke like me, I'm just like, I don't care what people think. This is what I'm doing, and this is why I'm doing it. So yeah.
People need to think it's their own idea too, I think.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. My wife's very good at doing that with me. She'll she'll suggest something, and then I'll say in about 6 weeks' time, why don't we start doing this? And she'll say, oh, that's a brilliant idea. Well done. And I feel great about it. And then actually she's the one who's had the idea.
Yeah, playing the long game.
Exactly.
So tell me, so you both are friends previously. So you have been friends a long time or no?
20.
Quite a while.
Well, so our wives are sisters.
Oh.
So I met my now wife, in 2000, so 23 years ago. And then you met your now wife in 2003?
Yeah, end of 2002, beginning of 2000.
Oh, yeah. Okay. So we've known each other since then. We're the same age. We grew up in the same town. We've got a lot. So although we never knew each other until that point, it kind of feels like we've got a lot of sort of shared history, would you say? Or, we grew up listening to fairly similar music. We went to the same pubs and bars and clubs and stuff. Our paths probably crossed many times without us knowing.
Yeah, 100%.
And one of the wives was vegan first?
So my wife, Michelle, who was on, I think, episode 3 of our podcast, episode 2 of our podcast.
Are you counting the one that we recorded when we didn't record any sound?
Oh, okay.
It's episode 1.
Oh, yeah.
We've all done it.
Yeah. Michelle was vegan when I met her. And she'd been vegan, told me the day, from when she was about 15. So she'd been vegan probably 4 or 5 years before I met her. And then I was, I've mentioned before, like she's been vegan all that time. She went back to eating fish, and Jack went back to eating meat and dairy for a period of time, probably about 2 years. But I, regretfully to this day, I did all the bingo questions to her. I was a complete idiot. I said all the things that we get now as vegans. I said all those things to her. God knows why she stayed with me. Must have done her head in, because I know how much it does my head in. But yeah, the night I made my decision to go vegan, she was like, "You are joking." I was like, "No, I think I've got to do it now." She was like, couldn't believe it. It was mad. I couldn't believe it. I couldn't believe I was doing it. And it was overnight, and then I watched Cowspiracy, and then the following morning, that was it. I was done. Never looked back.
So I think that's fascinating that you could just do that basically overnight. Because
Mm.
you were with her, do you think you were eating a lot less animal? No. So you.
No, Michelle was vegan, and I was a full-on carnist. I was, like I said, all those bingo questions. You know, I'd walk past a farm and see a cow and go, "Oh, I bet that'd taste nice." God,
Michelle, you know the
Same.
people who say, I'm going to eat 2 burgers tonight because you're not eating any? That was Wes for 20 years.
well, 40 years.
Well, 40 years, yes, but
20
especially
years
in the
that you
last.
know, yeah, that's
Yeah.
what it was like. It was I hate thinking about that now. What an idiot! But
Well,
we live and learn, don't we?
we do, and I think I think it's good to some of the people who may be ahead of their partner on this journey and thinking there's no way they're going to be on board. You are like an example that sometimes we just need the right leadership. We need to give some, like I just said, sometimes people need to have it be their own decision.
Yeah.
Probably with you as well. So I think it was talking to you guys in December, you told me about the term pre-vegan. You got that from somebody, right? Pre-vegan. I love that. I use it all the time now.
I heard that in your episode with I've forgotten her name. Who the travel agent?
Was it Bridie or Victoria?
No.
Rebecca Gady-Sawicki.
Rebecca.
Yeah.
Rebecca, yeah.
Yeah,
Yes.
I learned that from you guys, and I love it.
We stole that from Molly Elwood from Elwood's Organic Dog Meat, who was, man, if you've, this is not just for you, Michelle, but for your listeners, if you've never never come across Elwood's Dog Meat on Instagram, Facebook, you are in for a massive treat, That it's one of the best vegan forms of activism I've ever seen. It's just incredible, and I don't think I could describe it enough to do it justice. But basically, it's a website that is an almost carbon copy of, say, a pig farm or a cow farm, but dogs. And as you read further down, it's like, oh, why are you offended by this? It's only the same as a pig. And then right at the bottom, it's like, oh, if you don't like this, then maybe you should consider going vegan. It's a really, really excellent website. Really good.
We'll put the link in. We'll put the link in the show notes. Elwood's Dog Meat.
Yes.
Right? Elwood's Dog Meat. Well, and so what you're saying to me is, as a life coach, I'm always looking for what's the thought that's behind the actions that change change everything, change the rest of our lives, or change the day, or change the relationship. Because you were as capable of being vegan on one day as you were the next. The only thing that changed was a decision, as a thought, really, right?
Yeah, I think it's fascinating when you say it like that, because I couldn't answer it. It's that thing that we know all those things. I speak to people now and they'll say, I know that happens, I just choose to ignore it. And I was there. I did the same thing I always said. I know it happens. Humane slaughter is an oxymoron. We know that it doesn't work. So when you then see it, I think when I saw those scenes in Cowspiracy, and you see it and you learn to accept it, that acceptance that, oh yeah, this is actually morally and ethically wrong. It's that moment that I just went, yeah, I can do it. And then the image, there's an image partway through that film where there's a guy. It's just a cartoon image of a guy laying underneath a cow, sucking milk out of a cow's udder. And that was me, gone. I was like, no, that's just foul. Obviously, nobody would drink milk like that. Well, there are some videos of people doing that, but generally you don't see milk like that. But that is literally what you're doing. And I saw it. And every time, if I have accidentally consumed milk or accidentally somebody's giving me something with cheese in, I'm like, there's that image of that cow with that person sucking on the other, and I'll properly want to gag. And that's my thought process through it. It's just mad.
we've all been hypnotized,
Yeah, fully brainwashed, isn't it? We've been brainwashed from before we could talk. I said, I've got two jobs, and one of those jobs is supporting new dads with their babies, about bonding with their babies, and knowing that when we have a baby, they breastfeed because that milk is for the baby, it's for human consumption. And then there's a moment where we go, "You're not drinking that milk now. You're going to drink cow's milk." Why? Why would you do that? But I did it. I did that as a baby, and I did that with my three kids because that's what we did. That's what you're told to do. It's brainwashing at a level that's way beyond anything I can explain. It's crazy. You imagine brainwashing of being taken into a room and force fed this stuff, but you force fed it from such an early age. It's shocking.
Yeah,
sickening.
It's being done by the people who love us most, and who really do want the best for us, and themselves. That's the information they have, right? I know new moms still who are really have doctors really concerned about that. They're going to force their veganism on their children when the children are a little bit older, and that's the exact terms that they reported, that the doctor said, now you're not going to force your child to be vegan, right? As if we're not forcing our children a million things,
Yeah. Wow. We had we spoke to a vegan education specialist recently, and one of the things she said was that, kids go to nursery and they sing Old MacDonald Had a Farm, and they might have a play set that's a farm. And so right from a really, really young age, and all the books are about animals on farms and all that sort of thing. And as we know from when we were kids, cows make milk. There's no explanation of why cows make milk because they're mothers. It's just cows make milk. And so it's just built into our society that the formative years of being a really young kid, the interaction that you have with toy animals or animals in books is that they're a property and that they're, there for our consumption, and that's it. And so it's breaking that link, which is a massive job.
It is, because so much of our dreams, like the thoughts we have, the visualization we have from books and songs, just like you're saying, are built around that. I know it's very, and there are beautiful things about it. It's just the reality doesn't jive with the ideal. So now, Wes, you've also talked about how you have two jobs. And one of your jobs is a fairly easy place for you to discuss being a vegan. And the other job, you have men co-workers, males, I guess all males in that position.
Yeah.
And they are not particularly.
I think in all fairness, so let's go with the weekend job. Is in a factory environment. Old school guys that that's they see things a different way. And me, in my other job, I'm working in mental health. So they're like, why would you do that? And why are you vegan? That's all a bit mental, a bit crazy. So I get a lot of stick for it. And they'll come to me with, firstly, the bingo questions, but also then they'll try and twist the bingo questions to this level that just becomes completely nonsensical, and I have to work through that, which is it's interesting at times, learning when to keep quiet and not ride to it, and also like we know when we're in this world of having enough knowledge behind me to back up my argument, and if they're going to come up with something and I can fight back in inverted commas, I will. I'll give as good as they're going to give me. Whereas my other job, I'm working with guys that, we're compassionate and we want to help people, and we're all about keeping the family unit together, not keeping them together, but how babies fit into the family unit and how dads can help, that sort of thing. So when you're working with compassionate guys, but they're not vegan, it plays on my mind. And I'm just like, if they could just listen to me, that sounds really stupid. I don't want anything. But if they could just listen to our side of it, if they could watch the Gary Yourofsky video, if they would accept that and watch it and take it on board, I know that they get it. But because of that brainwashed mentality, they'll put a barrier up every time. I know that they get it because they are compassionate people. I know that. I know that they're good guys. But they put these barriers up through that systematic brainwashing that we've all had. And it's hard. It's hard work.
I know what you mean. And I was just talking to Rory Cockshaw. You've had him on.
Oh, our friend Rory, yeah.
Yeah, and he's a marvelous debater, a marvelous spokesperson, yes. Very happy to trot out all the facts and figures. And I said, thank you, because I am not interested in doing that. I am not interested in having a debate with Jacob Rees-Mogg or anybody else who's not on board. I just won't do it.
I can't remember the numbers either.
No.
Like I know 74% of statistics are made up, but if I'm having an argument, I know 73, sorry. But if I'm having a discussion with somebody about veganism, I want to get it right. And I don't want them to come back to me the next day and say, oh, you said it was 16% of all the globe's carbon emissions are caused by animals. Well, actually, I've just read this and it's only 12%. And I'll be like, you're kind of missing the point. But that's how, that for me, that spoils the argument that I'm having by getting it wrong. So I try and stay away from facts and figures, which doesn't really help.
The argument I've come out with that I think I'm getting quite comfortable with now is it doesn't matter what they come at you with, because no matter what happens, you've got to kill an animal for whatever it is for you to consume. So there is no argument. Every time they say, what if this, what if that, what if the other, are you going to kill an animal? Well, yeah, well, it's not right. And they cannot come back. Then they cannot come back to you because it doesn't matter. Even if they said, yeah, but we've got to live. Yeah, but you don't need to kill an animal. Yeah, but what about this? You don't need to kill an animal. They can never win on that.
No, it's like the stuck on a desert island with a pig thing, isn't it? Like, well, somebody might kill the pig, but that's only really a day's food, because after that it's going to go off. And if there's no running fresh water on this mythical desert island, you're going to be dead in 3 days anyway. So just cuddle the pig and be done with it.
Cuddle, that's it.
That's it.
I know. I just have no patience for the arguments, because I think once people believe that they could, they don't need to argue anymore. But until they have they start to believe, yeah, I could probably eat a lot less, or I could probably do without it these meals or those situations, then I think people get open. Then I think they're like, oh, how do you do that? What did you give up first? What did you? Then they're looking for how could I? They're looking for some sort of support.
Absolutely. And the thing is, and one of the things that we ask all of our guests is, what advice would you give to someone who's interested in going vegan? And the answers are different every single time. Some of it's just like, do it now, cut out everything. And others, it's just like, well, replace one meal, look at the meals that you have regularly and just go through one by one at a time. Is there an ingredient I can swap out and put something else in? And just do it bit by bit. And you've got to find what works for you. It's, Wes went vegan overnight. I transitioned over a space of a month or so. For other people, it's a lot longer. And there's different stumbling blocks for everybody. And I think sometimes people get really hung up on thinking, right, going from all the food they eat now to straight away being vegan, it just seems impossible. It's like a mind-blowing thing to them, but you don't have to do it like that. You just need to try and break it down into manageable chunks.
Yeah, and as long as you're looking for how it won't work, that's exactly what you're going to find. As long as you're looking for the problems, you're always going to find problems.
Yeah.
Yes, absolutely.
I was
Yes.
talking to the other thing. There is one problem about going overnight, and that is very often tummy issues. Um, I I just had. Do you know that there are
Do you want me to go there?
No, you don't have to. But
I didn't realize it was that sort of podcast, Michelle.
I always warn people not to go fully 100% like plant-based overnight, just unless they've had a diet of this sort to begin with a little bit. You want to introduce some of that stuff, I think.
Unless they've had a diet like that and they're near a toilet.
Yeah, well,
Yeah.
yeah, not while you're flying or whatever. I don't know. There's a woman who's coming on the podcast. I just interviewed her. She's a vegan canine nutritionist. And she was saying it's the same issue for dogs, that a lot of people go vegan. They do not want to be handling meats. And dogs are not like cats. Dogs can have a healthy diet with just plants. But she says they can't handle it overnight. So you have to start increasing the rough veg, the fiber, and the plant-based stuff, because they don't have the microbiome to handle that if they've been eating mostly kibble and meat.
Right.
So humans too sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, don't get me wrong. I won't go too far into it, but the first month was quite interesting. I'll give you that.
I didn't know I was walking into it. So I think that's a good example of how people do it. That overnight can have its own. And if somebody says to me, "Oh yeah, I tried it for 3 days and I was miserable," and I'm supposed to say, "Okay, yeah, then don't do it again. Like, don't even try."
Yeah, but were you more miserable than you are in your normal life? Like, I'm miserable quite often, but that's not because I'm vegan. Just a grumpy old man.
I can vouch for that.
I think sometimes you're just not in a good mood, but that doesn't necessarily mean sometimes it is your food. Sometimes, you're not eating enough iron, and that's fine. But sometimes it's just life. It's just hard. Wes has got 2 full-time jobs. Life is hard. And and I think sometimes maybe people assume that because they've suddenly gone vegan, that's the only reason that they're not feeling happy, or they expect that they go vegan and suddenly they're living in these sunlit uplands of everything's happy and birds come and sit on your shoulder and sing to you in the morning and that sort of thing. That's not how it is. You still have to live your life. It's just that you don't eat dead things.
Yeah.
And sometimes some of us, when we go vegan, we can feel a little gloomy. We can feel a little bit like sad, a little bit guilty about things. It never helps. I don't recommend it, but we can find ourselves there. Like Wes, what you were saying, that you can't believe that you asked some of the questions that you did at one point.
Yeah. I think there's, I think that dystopia term is a key factor in veganism now. It's like that's what brings it down mostly. Is you've made the right decision now. Now you're on this side of the fence. You're like, yeah, I get this now. But why can't everybody else? If I can have done it in the situation I was in personally 6 years ago, and I've made that change, why can't these other people? Why can't they see things the same way as me? And then if they're not doing that, then those animals are still dying. The climate is still doing what it's doing, and all these other factors that are still. They'll be moaning that the summers are getting too hot, or they're feeling poorlier than they've ever felt, or whatever it is. I'm like, if you just went vegan, that might stop at some point. Just carrying it on because you like cheese isn't going to help.
No, I've spoken to a few people as well who say I could go vegetarian but not vegan, and I've never said it, but I've thought, well, go vegetarian then. If you could do it, do it.
Yeah,
because it means, okay, all right, there's still milk and eggs and honey to go through and leather and silk and stuff, but it means that you're not eating meat. So you're on the road, aren't you? You're on the road. You're more of a pre-vegan than a meat eater. So why not do it?
I agree.
I'm going to say that next time someone mentions it.
I do. I agree, and I think you should. I do, because I think like sometimes people say I could give it up all except when I'm at so and so's house or my mother or my grandmother. I'm like, why not? Then do that.
Yes.
Do that. I mean, it's not that I don't care, but that is such a big step. And once you do that, people don't realize how much they learn each time they change one small choice. They learn that, oh, it's actually nobody dies except, the animals that I'm still eating. I'll be fine. And people respect you for your decisions. Some people less than others, but most people, if you take it seriously, they take you seriously about it.
Yes. Yeah, that's it. Yeah. And also, I think I've read a lot of sort of posts by vegans that I follow about the struggles that they have with family and how it affects them really negatively. And I've certainly been lucky that my family have all gone along with it and not given me a hard time and just asked genuine questions because they're interested, not because they're trying to trip me up or anything like that. And I'm definitely luckier than Wes, because where I work, I think some sections of the media would call the people I work with woke. So it's not really, being vegans by far not the weirdest thing that anybody does in my team. So it's you know what I mean? It's just like, oh yeah, he's vegan. Yeah, move on. So I don't get those awkward questions that Wes gets by all his colleagues.
Well, they are tiresome, aren't they, Wes?
Yeah.
It's tiresome. Yeah.
I had one of the ones I can remember. There's been a few. Was this someone's? Because I like the NFL. Big fan of the NFL, and somebody was taking a mick out of me liking the NFL, and somebody said there won't be any vegans in the NFL, and I went, well, in Game Changers, half of the Tennessee Titans are vegan. There's this big section in the Game Changers movie about it. And he went, well, would that work? Because he wouldn't be able to bulk up, would he? I was like, what's that telling you? if these guys are highly trained professionals in one of the strongest sports in the world, and they're vegan, and in that season that discussion happened, they were in the playoff. They're not doing too bad on a vegan diet. So your argument's not standing up. You're trying to throw something at me, and you've already fallen at the first hurdle. So do one. Not interested.
Well, and I also worry / wonder whether a lot of these elite athletes who may be a lot more vegan and plant-based than we know, because they know if they have a bad game, a bad season, that people will automatically think it's because of what they're not eating.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's a good point, actually.
I was just telling Rory Cockshaw that every time I get a cold, I feel like I'm letting the team down.
I said that to Matthew when COVID happened. I was like, wouldn't it be good if every vegan didn't get COVID? That would be amazing. And then it didn't happen. I was gutted. I thought we were going to be superheroes. Yeah. This is going to be the thing that changes everybody. All the vegans haven't got COVID. That's the thing to do. And then I got COVID.
Were you very sick?
I wasn't too bad. That was my saving grace. I think if I felt, and I know there again, I said this on one of our episodes a couple of weeks ago, that don't get me wrong, people get poorly, people can still get heart disease, people can still get cancers and all those things. But for me personally, I'm going to take it as a bit of a win that when I got COVID, I felt like a slightly bad hangover.
That's not bad.
For a couple of days, and I was like, okay, man, let's take that as my immune system really good. It might not have been, it might have just been the luck of the draw, but in my head,
we never know. But we know that we are fodder for people to use it against us, for sure.
Oh yeah.
So what keeps you? I mean, this is a big making the time, putting it together, getting it out. Your podcast is a labor of love, for sure. What keeps you doing it? Because I know sometimes I've got 139. I think I think I have 140, 139, something like that. And I have help. You guys do your own. I send it to Charlie.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I'm our Charlie, Michelle.
You're Charlie.
But basically, I've replaced listening to podcasts on the train on the way to work with editing our own podcast on the train on the way to work, because I can do it on my phone, so that's quite handy. So I can listen, re-listen, edit, listen again, and publish all from my phone. So it's quite handy from that point of view. What keeps us doing it?
What Matthew does is it sort of counteracts what I don't do.
No, what keeps us doing it? We've never spoken as often as we have since we've been doing this, really, have we? Even in 20 years of knowing each other. It's definitely brought us closer together, and we just like talking to each other. So it's a good opportunity for us to have a chat every couple of weeks, around talking to a guest as well and learning something from them. So that's what I get out of it. And we've met some, and I say actually met in real life, some people who have listened to the podcast, which always amazes us. When anyone listens, real people that actually listen to our podcast. But we've met some real people who we really get along with, and it's just good fun.
Yeah,
that's it. That's what keeps us doing it. We get some feedback from listeners who say that they've really enjoyed it and they've learned stuff. So why not?
It was literally after like the first episode, and you said we've had some listeners. And it was like, yeah,
I couldn't believe it.
I think we both thought, we'll do like 10 episodes and nobody listening will just maybe stop. But actually, then we got a listener in Chile or something. We were like, "Whoa, this is mad."
It is mad, isn't it?
The thing is, like, it doesn't actually cost us anything because the app that we use to publish is free. We've already got the equipment that we use. We haven't got a fancy microphone like you. We use the free version of Zoom, so there's literally no outlay at all. All it costs us is time, and so we don't charge for it. We haven't got a Patreon yet, and so there's no money coming in, but then there's no money going out. It's just good fun. We try and put the fun in vegan fundamentalism.
Oh, that's good. That's excellent.
Love it.
Might steal that one too. Now, where do you find your guests? Do you? I know you go to some of the
lots of badgering people.
Do you?
Literally Instagram mostly. It's we find, well, at the start actually. So the early days, our first guest was Wes's wife. Our second guest was a guy I met through Vegan Runners, our running club. Our next guest was Josh, your son, Wes. And then after that, it was, gradually sort of people we knew in real life who we asked on. And then after I think probably we got up to about episode 9, I think, of that sort of thing. And then bizarrely, people started asking us, can I come on your podcast? And we were like, what? We've got listeners and people who want to come on. What is going on here? But, just through people asking, or we find somebody on Instagram or Facebook who we think might be an interesting guest, and we will stalk them for a bit, ask them questions until they run out of excuses why they can't come on, basically. And then they come on, or sometimes, they might have something that they want to promote. Like we had just had Richard Makin on, who's School Night Vegan, who came on to promote his new cookbook, which was a really fun episode. And
it was very fun. I hope everybody listened to that one. That was really good. I had never heard of him before, and I can't believe I've missed him.
Yeah, don't tell anyone, Michelle, but we hadn't heard of him either. But his publisher emailed us and said, we'd like him to come on your podcast. And we were like, yeah, okay. Yeah, fine. And it was such a laugh. He was
a good guest, really good guest.
He really was. But yeah, we had Chad on recently from Top Vegan TV, which is a YouTube cooking competition, which is going on now. And yeah, we you know, I mentioned we've got a vegan education specialist. We've got Stephen Marcus Relaford coming on soon, who you've spoken to already.
Nice guy.
And yeah, absolutely. He was funny as well. And yeah, we try and get people from as many different sort of walks of life, because really it's for the listener, because they might just hear something and think, oh, yeah, that's useful. I never thought of doing that.
Mm.
And
Totally
that's it.
agree.
That's what it's all about.
I totally agree, and it helps me. But I think it is what I do for my listeners, is to show them. You might go, oh yeah, Michelle, maybe you know how to do that, but like, and so does he, and so does she, and so do they, and they all thought they couldn't do it. Almost every single one of them was like, I don't think that's possible. Yeah.
Absolutely. So it's like it's like learning everything from scratch. When you decide that you're not going to conform to this societal norm of eating animals and using animal products, everything starts afresh. And it's not just your diet and your lifestyle that you, from a vegan point of view, that you might look at. Once you've realized that you can change that about yourself, you know, then you can start thinking, well, what else have I been lied to my whole life? And once you become open to that, the sort of possibilities are endless, really. And it's and it can see, that could seem quite daunting, but really once you're sort of through the curtain, it can be absolutely fantastic.
I agree with you. I think if you find that you can ask and advocate for yourself in a way you never thought was possible, then you're like, well, okay, now what's next?
Yeah, 100%.
That's it. Absolutely.
So what is next? What are you guys doing this year? Do you have any plans?
No, I'm trying to work out how to not have 2 full-time jobs. For a start. But apart from that, no major plans really. Got vegan camp out, which we go on about on our podcast because it's so great. But yeah, vegan camp out is awesome because everybody in that festival is either vegan or thinking about being vegan, and you're in this massive field and like a bubble with good, kind, ethically minded people. It's awesome. And it takes you days to get over that. As soon as you start talking to people, you start hearing bingo questions again. You're like, oh, I want to be back there. So,
yeah. And you've got a whole row. There's like, what is it, 10, 12,000 people who go? And you've got like a whole massive row of food trucks of every different type of food. And you know that you can go up to any of them and have anything on the menu because it's all vegan. And you're just like, oh man, this is what it used to be like when you could go up to any food truck and eat any food. But it's our way now, and it's just mind blowing. Yeah, the come down afterwards is a bit of a we struggled with that a bit last year, didn't we, Wes?
That's where we learned about dystopia, wasn't it? Because we were just like, oh, yes. So miserable. Why am I so miserable?
Yes. Once you realise that actually life isn't like that normally.
Yeah. So when you came back from vegan camp out, you found it a letdown. Oh, I see. You
get the euphoria of being surrounded by thousands of vegans, and you know, we had Earthling Ed as the headliner last year, and you know, you're in this big tent and thousands of people listening to Earthling Ed, and it's all like, yeah, we can do it. And then you go back to work and you're like, oh God.
What would you do if you're on a desert island with a pig? Please.
Throw yourself in the sea. Leave me alone.
Last week, maybe it was this week even, I blocked, I don't know, 40 people on Instagram. That was kind of a record. I usually don't even block. If people just say something idiotic, I don't usually block them for just that. But there were just so many of them. I'm like, block.
I think that means you've made it though, Michelle.
Oh, maybe.
If you're getting trolls,
I don't even.
We've only had one.
Ignored.
We've only had one troll. How did you manage to get so many?
I don't. I don't know what it was. I don't know exactly what it was I posted, but I started getting like, well, would you eat a bunny if I said I was going to eat 2 bunnies? unless you ate a bunny. I'm like, okay, all right, I can't go there.
Where do you even start with that?
I know.
Oh my
And I was like,
God.
so that caught my attention. And then I started noticing how many, and I wonder if they were all like different aspects of one group or one person,
Oh,
or
yes.
I don't know. But it was just like,
I'm trying to sort that out in my head. That's really weird.
right,
So they're going to eat 2 bunnies
unless I eat one.
unless you eat 1. Oh God. Oh, why?
So I just wrote, "You got me."
That's it.
Block.
Okay, then.
Yeah. Goodbye.
Oh
No
my
need
God,
for
the
that.
logic. So now tell me about vegan camp out, because I don't think I don't think we have done that in the United States. We have veg fests, but I
Right.
don't think we have the same sort of model as vegan camp out. Is it always in the same place, or do they put it different places each year?
So I think it's moved. I don't know if it's moved every year, but it moved. So the last 2 years, it's moved locations. This year specifically because last year's venue, they'd been told that it was a hunt-free site. So there was no hunting on it, and then they found out that there was. So they've now moved it to a location that is apparently, as far as everybody is aware, a no hunting site. But as for what the idea is, that they've got like a music festival, where you've got different stages. You've got a main stage where you've got like celebrity vegans that will come on and do a talk about why they're vegan, maybe a little bit of activism and whatnot. There was a couple of British comedians on there last year. Matthew, help me out. I can't remember his name.
Simon Amstel.
Simon Amstel was
I
on
love
last.
them. And Ragnesh.
Oh,
Sorry.
Ramesh is this year's headliner. Yeah.
Is this year, yeah. And then there's another tent that's just music, but the bands are vegan bands. And then there's a third tent, which is like your vegan organisations like PETA. And again, I can't remember them.
Plant-based News, Viva. It's like the activism tent, and they had people from like Camp Beagle there last year, and which is an ongoing protest outside a dog breeding warehouse, not too far from where I live, actually. But yeah, people from different types of activism groups. So yeah, there was quite a lot of those. And then there's a mindfulness area as well. They put on yoga and fitness stuff and all that.
And it goes through a weekend, like a Friday to Sunday, or
yes. And then, like Matthew said earlier, there's like 50 plus vegan food vans, and they're even if they've got a company that sells vegan options, that's all they will sell there. They won't. Yeah. It's literally a fully vegan event. It's fantastic. Yes. And then the people that go are either vegan or they're thinking about it basically, or they're trying to get their mates chained.
Yeah. So they're not in the US, but we did speak to Jordan who runs Vegan Camp Out, and he teased us with they might be launching Vegan Camp Out Australia, which they've now announced. And he also did say that one of his ambitions is to get a Vegan Camp Out US. US version, but I think finding the right location is tricky because the US is so massive. Like for us in little old England, it's not too difficult because you just put it somewhere vaguely in the middle and pretty much everyone can get there within a day.
Yeah, our parts of the country are it would mean that you would draw probably not nationally, you would draw regionally for most of it. Well, I'm about to go with my husband to the UK. We're going to Edinburgh and then taking a train down to London. But we're stopping for a night in Holy Island in Lindisfarne.
Oh wow! Okay.
And so my husband, who's not vegan, but he's vegan for lunch and breakfast, and he still eats fish at night. But he also can't wait for the full English vegan breakfasts that we got last time when we were in the UK. That is something that you guys have figured out how to do, the mushrooms, the grilled tomato, the the plant-based sausages, just the cauliflower mash. I mean, just you guys, I don't know. Some applause to all of you.
We will take the credit on behalf of all the UK chefs.
Yes, of course you have to. You have to. So now, so you're going to now? When is Vegan Camp out? Is that coming up very soon, or is that later in the summer?
End of July.
There you go.
End of July. Okay.
Yeah.
So, are you going to continue with the podcast the way it is, or do you have any dreams about changing it? What's your hit list?
Don't know really. We had a bit of a chat. We started it with 10 set questions, and we just worked out that it kind of became a little bit forced, and it wasn't so much a conversation as a quiz. So we just sort of play around with it now, and we'll ask questions that are appropriate in that conversation piece. Like the first question we asked was, "What's your story? Why are you? What made you become vegan?" And we've had a couple of guests that we haven't had to ask that. They just tell us anyway. So we don't need to do that. So we just try and make it more of a conversation, make it more. We want it to be as informal as we possibly can. So we're forever evolving. It's the same old thing. We just want people to talk about what they do.
Yeah, that's it. And we haven't really got a grand strategy, to be honest. It's just we'll keep talking to vegans about being vegan, and if people want to sponsor us, then yeah, okay, fine, we'll go with it. But we haven't. It's not our job. I think some people, I mean, they can't be listeners, but some people think that it's our job and we make enough money off it to live. But then they listen and then they realise that we're just a couple of blokes chatting, and but it's not something that we haven't got the time to put anything more into it, really. It's just, we'll record an episode every week or so and then put it out.
I've listened to, like, from I think from early on, they sort of say, I want to do this full time. The only way I can do this full time is to set up a Patreon or set up this or set up that to gain money from it. There's a history one that I listened to, and he had to set up a membership scheme so he could stop his job to go and do that. And it's like, as lovely as that would be, what research would we need to do to get other people to talk about their story? It sort of wouldn't work. So we're happy doing what we do and do the best that we can to make our guests feel comfortable to be as open as they want to be. Like we had one of the best moments of that was having Jordan from Vegan Camp Out on. He's in a position where he gets a lot of trolls on his social media. Yes. He gets a lot of stick. And I was amazed at how open he was. He didn't have to say some of the things he said, but he was quite open about it. And we were just like, wow. Not that he released any big things, but he was very open about his story, about the realism behind what he faces on a day-to-day basis. So I was like, fair play to him. But we gave him that space, and I'm quite happy that we did that.
Yeah,
we didn't force anything. We didn't say, can you tell us these secrets? There was no secrets, but tell us these things. And he just opened talked about it.
Just came out in the conversation, didn't it? And also, I'm not sure either of us are brave enough to say to our wives that we want to quit our jobs and do podcasts for a living. I could imagine what the response to that would be. It wouldn't be.
You have to tell them after. So what would you like to see? So I think it's very interesting that you say you come out of a vegan camp out and real life is a little bit of like a lot of work. It feels like a lot heavier. What's one thing that you would just love to see, happen soon, not in the long run, but kind of soon, that would make your life a little bit more, I don't know, enjoyable, light, fun? Anything come up for you?
That's a really good question. That.
Oh my God.
I told you when you asked me, I want shoes.
Oh, yes, you did. Yes. Okay, well, I'll go route one and say jelly babies. Jelly babies. But also, more seriously, I think I just like political leaders across the world to take it seriously. That's a big ask. That's quite different to jelly babies being vegan, but it just feels like there's so much evidence and such a groundswell of opinion, and it's so clear that, especially young people, and I'm clearly not a young person, but it's so clear that young people do actually care about the planet that they're going to inherit from us, that it just seems like it's willful ignorance from those who are currently in power across the world. And that's the thing that I would really like, that one day they just wake up and go, oh, wouldn't it be nice if we did that? And then actually did it.
Yeah. I think I agree with you. It's that transparency, isn't it? Instead of them all lying to get what they want, actually be transparent and be honest about what they're doing, and if politicians are supposed to be standing up for us and they don't. I think that would make a big difference for me. And I know, again, what Matthew said, that's a big ask, but I think it would make such a difference.
Basically, we need a world of AOCs.
Well, be careful what you wish for.
Well, yeah, okay.
Well, you've got a coronation coming this weekend. It will be all done by the time this airs, and I'm not going to put you on the spot, but the new king is vegan friendly, I hear.
Yes.
And climate sensitive, I hear. So that won't hurt.
No, that's we can only hope, can't we?
Yeah.
You know, when he got onto the throne, whatever the term is, and he said about, what was the first thing he said? Was it about hunting?
He said, I think he said, "Where's you've got mustard on your hoodie?"
Hey. Yes, that's what it was. Yeah, he came out and said that he wanted to stop something. I was like, wow, if he's going to do this, fair play to him. Whatever that thing was. And he said a couple of other things since. I'm like, oh. Yeah.
The thing with our monarchy is that they don't actually have any power as such. And what am I trying to say? He can't he's not supposed to dabble in politics or anything like that, or make any, affect policy or anything. So there's supposed to be that sort of separation. Having said that, if the king says, wouldn't it be nice if we all explored going vegan 2 out of 3 meals a day, then you kind of hope that somebody somewhere would go, oh, well, if it's good enough for him, then maybe it's good enough for me. But then on the flip side, he can afford to be. He's one of the richest people in the world now, isn't he?
Yes, so. Yes. We can. Oh, yeah. People can always find some.
He doesn't live in a food desert. He hasn't got to go down to the co-op at 10 o'clock at night to try and find the last, curled up vegan friendly sandwich. His chefs will be all over that. So
that's a good point. All the people, we're not talking to most of the people in the food deserts. We are not asking them to do anything.
True.
Yeah, those are the people that maybe could make a big leadership change. But I think that, power or not, and if everybody it is so much more normal than 10 years ago, right? It is so much more normal. And so every single person with some visibility who normalizes it, talks about it, makes fun of themselves, or allows somebody to take a shot at them and then just lets it go, it's really, I think, very powerful.
Yes.
And that's what you guys are.
I think we've talked about it quite a lot, or other people on our podcast have talked about it, how the difference or the way veganism has escalated in the past 5 or so years is phenomenal. The difference between 20 years ago to 5 years ago and now is on another level, and it's only growing. It isn't. There's those people though that will come up with, it's just a fad. It's only, it's just, it'll blow over. It ain't blowing over, because there's more people are starting to take things on board and listen and engage with it. And it's only going to keep getting bigger. It's just, is it going to get bigger quick enough?
Those are
That's
good
the
words
thing.
to end on, Wes. Hopeful words. I think it's just going to get bigger. I think you're right. Thank you guys for all you do. In the show notes, I'm going to have all my links to your work. So, and I want everybody to download and follow and click and like and all the nice things.
Yeah.
And when you do have a Patreon or something like that, we'll just let us know so we can throw people in your direction.
Excellent.
Matt and Wes, thank you so much.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Michelle.
Michelle. That's awesome. Thanks a lot.
So what did you think of Wes and Matt and Wes? I feel like I have to do it both ways, to be fair. Anyway, if you've just learned about Matt and Wes from How I Vegan podcast today, I'm asking you, please follow their podcast on Spotify or Apple Podcasts or wherever you listen to podcasts. You know, it's truly such a simple, free thing that you can do to send some support and appreciation to them. Because, you know, some podcasts have sponsors, some have advertising. How I Vegan is entirely a labor of love, and it's a commitment to spreading a vegan message. And I really hope one of these days I'm going to get the chance to go to a vegan camp out with these guys. So listen to How I Vegan podcast. Matt and Wes have a very interesting back catalog, and there's loads of episodes there. So I really hope you're going to send them some love, subscribe, share, listen, and of course, if it's in alignment with your values, possibly a 5-star rating and review. There's really no way to overstate how important those things are in helping podcasters get the guests, get the notice, get the algorithms to work in their benefit. So for now, follow those links, How I Vegan, in the show notes. Happy listening. I'll be back in either Western Mass. No, I'll be back somewhere. I'll be back home soon. Vedge your best. Vedge Your Best podcast production, music, and editing by Charlie Weinshank. Thanks, Charlie. Before you go, it would mean so much to me and the Vedge Your Best team if you would hit subscribe, leave us a 5-star review, or share with someone you think might be interested. Something about algorithms, it helps bump us up a little in the rankings, and that's the best way to help others find the podcast and for us to find our audience. So, until next week, make it easy and veg your best.